and welcome back to the American Experiment Podcast. My name is Grace Keating. As always, I am joined by Kathryn Hinderacker.
Hi!
Welcome back. We missed you last week.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I loved watching your episode. It was fun to be on the other side. It was very enjoyable. And you guys are blowing up a little bit. You have a clip that's doing very well.
We do. Few clips from that episode are doing pretty well. One on Facebook has, I believe, producer Isaac, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're up to 850,000 views just on Facebook. So, I mean, I'm told if you tally up all the different platforms it's on, we have gone viral. So I'm told.
Wow, we're going viral. Congrats, Grace.
Oh, thanks. I don't really talk in it, so if you've seen it, credit goes to Bill. But
you were the pretty face. It
needs that. Oh yeah. I'm providing a great service there. Shockingly, we've heard, we've realized from that little clip experiment that people don't like Walz. That's going through the comments.
Really?
That's kind of the spirit I get. Yeah,
I can't read Facebook comments, but I believe it.
Yeah, I get the little notifications. So when you guys comment, lots of little, obscene emojis. Like we see it, we see you, we appreciate it.
It's like a dumpster fire in all of those comment sections. I'm like, I'll avoid.
For mental health, I really respect that decision.
Exactly.
I really do.
Well, Walz, he's had an interesting week, I guess. He's been in the news. I think we can start with our first story being Walz. Is that what you're thinking?
I love it.
On the national,
let's give the people what they
national
want.
tour, because everyone was demanding. They saw him as the VP candidate, and they were like, "That's what we want.
We need more of this." Yes.
So he's going around red congressional districts, right?
Yes.
Specifically red states. He was just in Iowa. We actually have a couple clips we can play that I think demonstrate, kind of the vibe of the speeches he's giving, what he's really trying to cultivate, his image, as he moves forward in his political career. Maybe runs for a third term, which I believe is historic. I don't think anyone's had 3 back-to-back.
Yeah, in Minnesota. No governor 3 times. And who knows? Maybe he's eyeing a presidential run even, a few years from now.
We can only hope. Okay, play the clip. Let's go to the first one.
Nothing conservative about an unelected South African Nepo-baby firing people to the air.
So that's Musk he's talking about, right?
Yes.
I love that crowd was
Elon
really
Musk.
funny. It's like all young people.
Yeah, there's like very many different colored hairs. Yeah. So funny. Okay, first of all, Elon Musk, I love how he brings in that he's like South African. They're obsessed with the fact that he's an immigrant.
A little racist. Or what's the word? Xenophobic?
Xenophobic.
Yeah.
That feels borderline.
It does. Yeah.
So Walz equals xenophobe. Second of all, Nepo-baby. This was like a new claim to me. I've
not heard this. No.
For those of you, if you've never heard that term before, this is used a lot like in pop culture, I feel like, Hollywood.
Oh, with actors, for sure.
Yes, with actors.
Yeah.
So if you're like, there's a lot of young, successful actors right now that are actually the kids of
other successful
famous actors, and people will find out and be like, oh, so they're a Nepo baby. It means like nepotism baby.
Right.
So he's calling Elon Musk a Nepo baby, like he had super successful parents. He was born into privilege. It's something you kind of hear, like, I think you can make this claim about Trump, right? Because of like his parents were really successful. He came into the business when it was pretty successful. His dad gave him, money to start out.
Sure.
So maybe that's a claim you could make against Trump, and people have, but Elon Musk?
Yeah, I have not heard him called that before. I was really caught off guard by this.
I looked into it, and basically, it's not true. Like, it's not true. His parents were like working class, middle income kind of people. Okay. Successful, not wildly successful kind of deal.
Okay.
But the first person who claimed that he was a Nepo baby was Ayanna Pressley. Are you familiar? Walz member. I'm like pretty sure she's the one with the shaved head.
Okay.
Ayanna Pressley.
Okay.
Anyway, she's the first one who has announced
She's on the
this.
squad?
She's on the squad. Friend of Ilhan Omar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Context.
close comrade. Yeah. And she was the first one to claim this, and I don't think it's true. And I've seen no one else say it except for her back in February, and now Walz here in Iowa. So I don't know if that's where he's getting his lines from, is squad members. I would not advise him on that, but
yeah, but that tracks with Walz. He likes to just, kind of say stuff to get that applause line and doesn't really care if it's truthful. That's what we saw on the vice presidential run.
And the last part, he's talking about the VA here specifically, cuts to the VA because he knows that, maybe that's something that conservatives are particularly sympathetic to, is the VA. Of course, I saw a meme that was like, ask any veteran about cuts to the VA, and it's that guy from Parks and Rec who hates government. Please
Ron,
know what I'm talking about.
Swanson.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
I'm
And he's like, he's going like this. Like, this is not.
This is a
veterans
popular
have been complaining about the VA for so long, and they're trying to make it better. I'm sorry, this is just not hitting at all. It's obviously like, you know, his core base. Maybe it's really hitting with, but I don't think it's landing with anyone else.
Oh, and it's so funny too, because like the whole tour that he's doing right now is in response to Republican Congress members of Congress, I believe, who started canceling their town halls because they were getting infiltrated by these left-wing, you know, protesters and agitators who were paid to be there and were co-opting these town halls. And so they were no longer a forum for people to ask, you know, their representative serious questions about, you know, the way that they're representing them. It turned into protests.
Right.
I mean, protest is too soft a word, too. I mean, they really got out of control.
Riots.
Yeah, borderline. Yeah,
It's really... It's crazy. And this is something that this is kind of happening to us, too. We're hosting an event later this week with Representative Michelle Fischbach. Not a town hall. It's a private event hosted by us about rural policy priorities.
Yeah, we're interviewing her.
We're interviewing her, and it's a small $10 fee because it's not a town hall. It's a private event. But yeah, it's been completely infiltrated by lots of left-wing people signing up. So if you're in the area, it's in Otter Tail County. You should look that up on our website and head on over, bring your support. It's just kind of crazy. And that's what you get, though. Like, the Democrats did do this because they've been calling Trump a Nazi for so long. Now it's Elon Musk is a Nazi over and over. If I thought there was a Nazi in government right now, I would be really going crazy too. That's insane. That's terrible. But it's not the case. So, you know, we have one more clip from Walz. Let's go ahead and play that one, Isaac, if you would.
And there's a responsibility in this time of chaos where elected officials need to hear what people are irritated about. And I would argue that Democratic officials should hear the primal scream that's coming from America is do something, damn it, this is wrong.
The primal scream?
Oh my gosh.
Do you not just instantly think of like the first time Trump was elected and there was like the women's march early, and there's that woman who's just like lying in the street. She's got like neon green on, short hair.
She's on her knees
screaming.
The primal scream. And then he's got to throw the swear in there. That's like their favorite thing these days. Damn it! Like,
Gotta be
they
really
think
edgy.
that is so cool.
Yeah,
like there's that random representative from Connecticut, or maybe is he a senator? He's a senator. He's a random senator from Connecticut, and he was like, hard effing day after Chuck Schumer was doing all these things with the CR. They're all like in chaos over there at the Democratic Party, you know, federally, which is very fun to watch. But it's just like, they think this is so cool and relatable. They caught half of Trump's message, which is like, you know, people liked him because he was kind of brash and upfront in these things, but they're missing the part where he's also being genuine to himself.
It's the authenticity. They're completely missing that. Yeah. They feel like their base is young people. Yeah. They want to get clipped. They really want to go viral. And they hope if they just sneak in enough swear words.
Enough swears.
Hello, fellow kids.
Hello, fellow kids.
100%.
Yeah. It's just funny because Walz is like, to me, comes off as one of the least authentic people in his flannel, in his like, you know, not a native Minnesota, and his rocks and cows is what he actually thinks of rural Minnesotans.
Just hates half of his constituency.
And so, you know, when you think about being genuine, look at like the ways Trump has also stayed really true to himself. Like, he will go, this is like one of my favorite clips, when he was signing tractors, meeting a bunch of farmers, he's in a full suit. This man is in a full suit, tie, the whole 9 yards. He looks himself.
I love it.
Trump is never wearing anything other than a suit, but he's in a farm. He's in a field and he's signing a tractor, you know? Like,
that's real.
He's like, I'll go to the people, but I'm not going to change who I am. And that is what was powerful about Trump, you know, is he just seems so open and honest. Vice versa, you get Walz, who puts on a flannel and swears on stage and tries to be a man of the people, but it comes off as such a sham.
No, that's so true. Wow, that was really that was such a treat. Walz,
I know.
Thank you so much for going on tour.
He has more stops, so we'll see what comes out of it.
I can't wait. Done yet. Honestly, cannot wait. Oh my gosh, Isaac, I don't want to forget you guys. We have to play. We have to play the song.
Oh, okay.
People need to hear this.
My deep dive of whether or not Elon Musk was actually a Nepo-baby, because I didn't know. And one of the first hits was quite a banger of a tune, I would say.
Yeah, we got at least 15 seconds.
Just a couple
of this.
seconds. It's like a club beat.
It really is. It really is. Can you imagine going out to dance and this comes on the speaker?
Like, it goes hard.
It really does. It builds and builds, and
it's this over and over, but it slaps. This is a playlist. Thank you, Isaac. This is a playlist, like, we should, first of all, we need to give this to our friend John Justice, who is always curating the best, like, musical performances from the left.
So true.
And
musical
we need to start a
playlist, loosely.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. We just start a playlist. So we'll get this on his radar and make sure it gets in rotation.
Provide that service to the people. Let's move on to some news stories. Speaking of Walz, if you haven't heard, Trump is downsizing the U.S. Department of Education. Walz has been very vocal in decrying the chaos of this and how, now our students are not going to be able to read. This is the straw that's going to break the camel's back and stop our kids from learning how to read. I don't know if he's heard. Our kids in Minnesota already can't read.
Actually can't read.
Or do math at grade level. But he's really concerned about this. So is it actually a big deal, Kathryn?
No, you guys, I didn't know this, but it says they announced plans to reduce 1,315 staff positions at the Department of Education, bringing the agency's total workforce reduction to approximately 50% since the start of President Donald Trump's second term.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. I love it. I mean, it's so funny because this is also one of the reasons that I just mentioned, like, federally, the Democrats are kind of like in distress over this CR situation, because if the government shuts down, what happens is only the essential workers stay working, right? So non-essential workers for the government are told you can't do your job because the government's shut down, but essential workers keep going.
Sure.
Their fear, like Chuck Schumer's fear, what people are saying is that when they see who the essential and non-essential workers are, Elon will be like, well, that was easy. Don't come back. Yes. Non-essential, stay gone. And that's what they're afraid will happen. So that's why a lot of people are thinking that Chuck Schumer is like, we got to go along with this. We got to go. We cannot let the government shut down because that would be a disaster. Sounds pretty cool to me. But I think that is so dang funny. And Kathryn writes about this really well. I mean, the amount of money we put into the Department of Education has in no way correlated with the results we get from our students being better educated, doing better on tests, doing better to compete globally. It's in no way connected. So we might as well start making cuts and make it more efficient until we find out how do we help our kids succeed, which should be the number one goal of the Department of Education, which it's obviously not right now. Yeah.
Well, and it's so funny to think about, okay, if they can cut 1,300 staff positions, and yet this department is still required to fulfill like their statutory requirements. If you can cut 1,300 people and still meet your requirements, those were not essential employees. And that's too bad. I'm sorry. Like it's always going to be hard to lose your job. But wow, that feels like a pretty easy choice to make.
Yeah, Kathryn in her piece here includes a statement from the National Association of Scholars that says, I just thought it was really good. While job cuts are not loved for themselves, perhaps this is one step of many to restore to America the jewel of an education system it once possessed and heal our K-12 schools. They also noted that most of the staff reductions are inward-facing roles, internal bureaucratic roles, and largely duplicative.
Okay.
And
thus bureaucrats.
Not expected to interfere with the agency's statutory required functions, as you said.
Yeah, okay. So, the stuff that everyone's losing their minds over, the stuff that Walz is freaking out over. Let's see. Distributing funds to disadvantaged schools, special education, FAFSA reform, civil rights enforcement. Like, they're going to keep doing that stuff.
Yeah.
They're just going to do it and spend less taxpayer money. I'm on board.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. It's also like the Democrats are forgetting that Trump has the mandate he has from, he won the popular vote to disrupt the system. That was like literally
that's
the
what America
message
wanted.
that Americans sent to the president. When he does it, I don't think you should be so surprised. And I think it's what people want. They want better outcomes, and they know it's going to take some serious disruption and something different to get that.
Yeah, speaking of serious disruption, maybe in a different, more negative sense. I've heard our legislators here at the Minnesota State Capitol are trying to amidst a $6 billion spending deficit, in case you've been living under a rock, they're trying to spend how much on reparations for slavery?
$100 million.
Oh, okay.
I love this bill.
Slightly different
really
disruption.
incredible.
They're going a different direction here in Minnesota than
Yeah,
than Trump is.
we're in a deficit, and they're like, I know how we can spend $100 million.
Let's give it to the people.
The
who are
descendants
of
slavery in Minnesota.
Which Minnesota never had slavery, by the way. Just a little historical fun fact for you. Actually, we sent a lot of our young men back in the day to go fight in the Civil War to abolish slavery. I don't know, in case you missed that little section of American history in your high school class.
The whole reparations argument is just, the thing that bothers me about it, I think the most, is it's very pseudo-intellectual. Like, they think, in this bill it uses terms that I think for most people have been largely kind of discredited, like systemic racism or like inherited systemic racism. They use these long terms like that in the bill. And I think a lot of that has been somewhat discredited as far as like, you talk about trauma and like, can you receive trauma through, that's like the big thing I hear about.
Like generational
trauma. There are all these books that are really popular in like book clubs, like My Body Keeps the Score and these different things. And it's like all pseudoscience, it's very much not something that's studied. And the effects that you get many generations after are completely unclear. So you can send people money for, past losses, past harms, of course, but there's no clear effect and there's not going to be a clear impact. So it's a very difficult thing to measure. And to what end? Unfortunately, the government has never been perfect, and they've certainly done things that have harmed many groups of people over our history. To what end do you send the descendants of people who were harmed many years ago money and apologies to try and make up for that?
Yeah, and this is so indicative of, I feel, the culture in Minnesota generally. There's so many people in the state, unfortunately, that are just weighed down by the sense of white guilt. There's no other way to say it. This really awful thing happened in our country's history, and we can't go back and undo it, but let's do this thing that makes us feel really good and makes us feel like we're caring for the people who are descended from the people that were mistreated. And I don't know, there's that concept that we talk about sometimes here. I think it's called suicidal empathy. And yeah, I mean, it's just the idea of a society, a culture going too far in trying to care for people and destroying itself in the process, because this is obviously a fiscally ridiculous bill.
Absolutely. And it's this lack of caring for the actual outcome. Like, what's going to come from this? Is this going to make people's lives better who have, even if this is just a perceived harm, if it exists at all, we can't tell. Will it make those people's lives better? We can't necessarily tell. Government handouts, if you look, have not tended to make people's lives better, Yeah. So if you want to look at the outcome and you're hoping to create, better futures for these people who are, you think, struggling from a past harm, I don't think this is the right way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are good arguments to be made for like things like class mobility and stuff like that. We want to make sure we live in a society where you can move from growing up in a poor household to being really successful, because there are issues with people getting stuck in like poverty cycles, and generationally it can be hard to come out of poverty. But the best possible way to make sure you have class mobility that's ever been tried in the history of the world is a capitalist system, a free market system. This is the opposite of that. Government handouts is the opposite of that.
Yeah, 100%. And what do you have to do to fund those government handouts? You have to raise taxes and make it harder for everyone in your state, including the people who are supposedly benefiting from these handouts, to get ahead and lead a good, quality of life.
Absolutely. In college, did you have libs that would go like this?
Yes,
when you made a good point.
Oh yeah,
that's what I would do. That's what I would do to you, Grace.
Oh my gosh, stop! What a compliment.
I don't know. Some of the older people on our call might not have like experienced this, but it used to be like if you were in class in college and someone gave like a fire woke point, all the rest of the class would go. And I don't really know why. Snaps.
It's so funny because it started as like, that's how you would applaud at poetry slams like 15 years ago. And somehow it migrated into the university classrooms.
Oh my God, it was all the time. I went to St. Olaf, so like, of course it was all the time. Your school was probably a little better.
Yeah.
But like, a constant snaps. And the professor would be like, trying to challenge this kid being insane. And the whole class would just be like, and like snapping. God. So weird.
The state of our American college system, guys. Don't send your kids to college.
Yeah,
or
seriously.
pick a good school.
God.
Oh my gosh. Let's get back on track.
One more story. before we head out to the rest of the week?
I'll let you introduce this, Kathryn.
Me?
Okay. You have, I think, some pretty fiery feelings on the city in question, so I'll let you do this one.
This is my least favorite city in the state of Minnesota.
We're going to get some mean comments about
Closure of last grocery store in downtown St. Paul shows that city government has reneged on the urban social contract. This is a piece by John Phelan that went around on social media this past week. Basically, the London Byerlys in Lower Town St. Paul, it's the only remaining grocery store in downtown St. Paul, has announced that they're closing.
And the reasons why. Please tell us the reasons why. I could not believe this as I was reading it.
The exodus of workers from downtown, he lists a lot of things, pushing property taxes up, but also the rise in antisocial behavior and outright crime. The store was set on fire in 2022 when approximately $350,000 of merchandise had to be discarded, with the total damage between $500,000 and $800,000.
The company's statement was so sad because it's just like, we're spending more than we're taking in. It's too expensive to operate here. We're not making enough money. Like, then you look at why. It's like, we got set on fire. People are stealing from us. People are being antisocial, and not antisocial in the sense of like, I don't smile at you when I pass you in the store. No. But antisocial as in like drug use.
Yeah.
And worse behaviors in St. Paul's only remaining.
And of course, people who live in this area are unhappy. Yeah. They talk about how this is so sad. I want to live in an urban place. And, John Phelan makes a great point here about the urban social contract, which, you should go read the piece. Okay. But you can imagine like wanting to live in a place like this. I have at times, like I lived in DC for a while. You walk everywhere. It's really nice. But towards the end of the time I was in DC, it was becoming really impossible to actually do that. There were homeless people really taking over the city. I lived, by Union Station, and there were in every single little like curvature of the building, different homeless people really like camping out. And once people started yelling at me and like, saying things to me constantly when I would go out, I was like, I don't know if I should, like, this is not necessarily safe. I had to like make sure I'm not walking after a certain time, even if I'm really close. I'm going to at least hop in an Uber. I definitely wouldn't take the metro.
God.
So there are things like that.
Like, nation's capital.
It's like, so sad. I know. And that's what St. Paul is feeling too, I think, clearly, because you want to have that experience where you can just like live in an apartment and walk to your London Byerlys and things like that. But that requires the government to uphold their side of the bargain, which is making it a place where businesses can function and operate without significant crime, homelessness, these different problems that make it hard for people to live in those urban areas.
Yeah, it's sad because what do you say to those people who are living in St. Paul and maybe can't move? I remember like around the time of the looting and everything that was happening in Minneapolis, we were hearing from so many people saying like, I want to leave the city. Financially, I can't. Mm-hmm. And what do you say to those people who maybe don't agree with the their elected officials who are doing this, who are making it less safe, making it more expensive for businesses to operate, putting in policies that are discouraging businesses from returning, from remote work? What do you say to them other than, sorry, you live in an area where people elect the wrong people?
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to poke fun at areas that are so far down the wrong track, but it's sad too.
It's also sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I don't know for sure, but I would venture to guess that some of the writers on this reparations bill might be out of St. Paul. Fatah?
Oh my goodness.
No, he's Minneapolis. I'm wrong. Well, I don't know. Someone go look. There's a couple people. I can't keep track of where all these people are.
That's a fair point. Like
Papas. Make Quaid is Apple Valley. By the way, Apple Valley, can you not elect those sort of like radical socialists to be your representatives? You're a normal suburban area. What in the world? That one really blows my mind.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I thought that'd be kind of a fun one to end on. That was a little sad.
It's a little sad. I feel bad for our cities. I think I have experienced like benefits from living in areas like that in the past where you can walk places and, like you can live close by to people, family members and friends that you really care about.
Yeah.
And it can be really nice. Some people don't like it. Some people love it.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to have those areas for that to be an option for people, especially when like you're looking at Minneapolis and a lot of people work downtown. It's convenient for your life. It's so difficult now.
Yeah. It's a very attractive lifestyle for young people, I think, especially to be near where they work and near their friends and walk to everything. And there's so few areas now in Minnesota because of policies like this and closures like that cause closures like this. There's so few areas like that left, really. Like I love the idea of being able to walk to more places and I don't know. I like that lifestyle. And never in a million years would I move into downtown Minneapolis or downtown St. Paul.
Yeah.
It's sad. And it really takes away from that kind of hometown pride too. Like Minnesota, let's clean up our capital city. This is St. Paul. Like we want people to go there.
And the place is a crumb hole. Like seriously, you can hardly drive on the roads in St. Paul. It's terrible.
Walk around for a few minutes. Like it's not
really
pretty.
crazy when you go to the Capitol. I know, like, we went to the women's rally. I've been to plenty of things at the Capitol over the years. You walk into the Capitol and you're like, oh my God, this is beautiful. We have this gorgeous Capitol. It's really pretty. Is it the house that's building themselves, the Taj Mahal? Beautiful new building going up the Taj Mahal for the legislators. It's incredible that they're building it for themselves. Meanwhile, you can't drive. The roads are not functional. The roads are like not functional. Like I'm like, can you?
These two things do not match each other.
It's like that. Can you take some of this money and put it into like the people living there?
Yeah.
The McDonald's has like bars. It looks like a weird Soviet style.
Very dystopian.
It's so weird. That city. Come on.
Yeah.
They need better leadership.
Upsetting.
That's the thing. Because we know what policies, we know what would help this city, but the people need to be the ones who do that.
Yeah.
Better leadership.
Well, before we wrap up, I do want to talk a little bit more about the Fishbach event that's happening later this week. Only to say, I wanted to get your thoughts on, American Experiment's experience with protesters disrupting events. Again, you have such a fun perspective because you were, former events coordinator. But this is obviously not the first time one of our events has been disrupted in this way.
I have a good perspective, or I have like PTSD. Seriously, like when we did the critical race theory tour in 2021. Yeah, 2021. It was a 25 city tour, I believe, and every single place we went, we were getting kicked out by the venues because leftists would call the venues and say, "You're hosting racists, and we're gonna protest if you go through with this, and we're gonna cause disruptions." And so we kept getting canceled from places, and eventually, after a couple stops, not many, I think the first day we did 3 in one day. After the first stop, I said, call in the staff. Like, we need our entire office here. We need people here, like, ready to defend our speakers, our presenters, and the people who are talking about this subject. People are getting really, we had a breakfast and people were, do you remember that?
There was like a whole table of like
people who
teachers or like union reps or something weird, really aggressive. Who went there to disrupt.
We didn't, I did not expect that. We're talking about how there are, CRT is a racist ideology and we're against it.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect that. And so, we're calling, like, bring in the staff. We need help. We need backup just so everyone's okay and we're safe.
Yeah.
And then as we continued to get pushback, protesters, things like that, I started bringing in, off-duty police officers to every stop. We'd make sure we had armed security there just to keep everyone safe. And I think at its peak was probably the stop in Moorhead where someone was handcuffed and brought out of the event.
There were some other incredible moments on that whole tour. Just protesters getting told to, sit down and shut up. Basically, this is our event. You're not going to disrupt.
One of my favorites was there was like, I don't even remember where this was, but there was a back and forth shouting exchange with John, our president, and a couple different people in the audience because this guy was like, "You're funded by the Koch brothers." And I know my dad said, "We wish." Like, it was just this whole, everyone's cracking up. And we're like, this guy's like, okay. And then sits back down. And then I think there was a term that my dad used in his speech that was like, what did he say? Instead of transgender, he said transsexual, I think. And a woman, I think it was a woman, stands up and goes, "That's offensive." And he's like, huh? Like,
don't even know.
It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. But sit back down.
Sit down.
And so there's like, there was some incidents like that.
Really iconic moments from that tour. Yeah.
Finally, in Moorhead, we had basically the local Black Lives Matter chapter tried to take over the event as their own. And so, everyone was called in, the sheriff's department, the police, and they came and they did a great job. But one of the protesting members lunged at a disagreeing audience member, and so they had to handcuff her and take her out.
Intense stuff.
Yeah, it was crazy.
All that is to say, like, this is not our first time dealing with protesters disrupting events. We could really use your support in Otter Tail. Go to americanexperiment.org/events. Come out if you're in the Otter Tail area and just show your support and be there. And we would really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And think about like what you're saying online and in your life. Like, how are you raising the bar? Like, we talk about things in a fun way, sometimes crazy way, exciting way, but like it's always good to like vibe check and think like, am I being too much? Like, am I the person who's saying Trump is Hitler and really causing people to not understand what's going on, what the truth is, that he's not Hitler and it's okay. And we need to bring the temperature down on some of those conversations. I think it's good for both sides to do, especially one side, but
general good advice.
General good advice. Like, this is not a shouting situation. We need to be able to function in civil society.
Yeah, 100%.
So make sure you're not on the side that's shouting people down, you know?
Yeah.
You're listening and you're respectfully arguing. You are not shouting down.
Very true.
Which our side never really is, to be honest.
Yeah. We're the side of free speech, so I've heard. So, you know, shouldn't be an issue. You guys, thank you so much for joining us this week. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, do all the things to help us reach more people. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Send in some thoughts. info@americanexperiment.org if you have anything to respond to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Just put it in the comments. Thanks, guys.